right, hey everyone, welcome to the No Guts, No Galaxy podcast number 138. We are your host, Phil and Darren. Today is April 6, 2016, and I'd like to just say welcome to everyone out there. And of course, I'll raise my mug to Mama Bear himself. I think your mug's bigger than mine, but you know, God almighty, dude, like that's not even, like, do you even work out, bro? Like,
That's my workout right there. I do two-fisted drinking. I'll drink from my left hand as well. Of course, there's also the part of getting up and going to make it. That's the other part of my workout.
jeez, dude, that is like 64 ounces of. I
Goodness.
mean, you know, hey, do you got a coffee warmer so it stays warm at least? Do you got like a plate warmer or something like
Actually,
that?
yeah, my computer is so freaking hot that
Is that what it
keeps
is?
everything. No, I don't mind cold coffee, man.
All right, guys, it is 1:38. We told you we'd be back, and we are here. So we're doing something a little bit different today. We've done this in the past. We're going to be doing community questions and topics, which is you guys bring up questions in chat, and we will do our best to talk about them, go in depth as far as we can, and sort of give it our opinions and thoughts on. But just one announcement, obviously, for those that missed the last podcast or maybe you haven't been here for a while. We do have a special podcast next Tuesday, not Wednesday, and that is for Darren, that guy right there, and fam. They're flying out to North Carolina to scout the area for possible relocation. So we just send your good vibes, Mech Bros. We need to convince the wife to make it happen. So yeah, I just want to say April 12th. It should be around 9 p.m. Eastern, but if Darren has to take a shower, then it may be around 9:44 again. So you
You
know,
try
there's that.
washing this thing out, man. You know
Dude,
how long it takes just to dry
to
this?
dry.
Hey, do I have a different webcam than you?
No, we have the same one.
Why does mine look so cloudy and like
Is it your lighting?
I don't know. It might be my lighting, but I'm pretty well lit. I don't know. Anyway,
Yours
just
is older than mine, so
yeah. Some like my webcam is cloudy because it's older, and I'm cloudy
a
because I'm
little bit
older.
grayed out. You know,
I get it.
isn't that what happens? Like, is it you? No, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we're gonna chill tonight. Like totally. I mean, we had topics ready to go from leftover from basically the town hall, but we were gonna try and get Paul involved. But as some of you know, Paul and I did a little bit of a fun Masters Challenge thing on the Prana channel right before this.
How many people got
And
proton? Any?
technically, Proton is the only one that killed
Kill
Proton.
proton.
He did
That's
that. He
great.
overheated in the match against Twinkie. So you could say that Twinkie was putting the heat on him so much that he, kind of went out of control and overheated himself or whatever. But yeah, Twinkie was at least got the closest to taking him out, and technically he won. So Twinkie won a mech of his choice. He won the Warhammer, the Black Widow.
Nice.
So yeah, we're gonna do more of those. In fact, just kind of off topic, Phil and I are working with PGI to develop their streaming channel as well as ours. And the content that's being streamed. Um, if you guys have liked the creative streams that have been happening with Jonty and Lauren recently, Phil and I worked really hard to make sure that got brought to the attention and got a chance out there. And it seems like people are really digging it, and the numbers are really good. These Masters Challenge, other stuff. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that channel as well as our channel. And you guys can ask as far as like questions. It's totally up to you. It can be gameplay, it can be NG questions, it can be working for PGI questions. But I am going out to, hey Brownie, I'm gonna see that Brownie soon, huh?
She's adorable.
My daughter can't wait. Anyway, I'm going to be going out to Phil's next week. As he said, I'll be spending the entire week in North Carolina. My family's checking it out as a possibility for a place for us to move within the next few months. If that happens, then there's a whole bunch of things that will be on the table that Phil and I will be able to do that we haven't been able to do before because of locations. So there'll be a lot of cool stuff to talk about. If you want to know about any of that, then feel free to bring it up. But yeah, it's your guys' night.
All right, so we do have a topic here, and so we on the town hall, someone was asking about zero sum. That was a topic we were gonna dive into tonight, and we figure we'll probably sort of talk about it when someone asks, and we can always wait till later. But I feel like that really needs Paul here because I feel like that's a little bit more in depth of a conversation. That isn't just zero sum, and that is zero sum better? Can it even work in the current solo and group? And then it dives into, well, if does the community want that sort of system? Is it a separate queue entirely? And I do think there's a really good conversation there, but I feel like Paul needs to be here to sort of give the like his answer to that. But so anyways, the first question we have is from Panzer Turini. Says any news updates on the replacement to Ghost Heat? No, actually, we asked Russ during the town hall, if he had given out any or would give out any information. Other than all we know is from his retweet of Homeless Bill. That's all we really know. And if for those that don't know, Homeless Bill proposed a sort of energy drain system a while ago that basically would fix sort of the two main, or at least what I see, two main issues with Ghost Heat Bean, which is the proper displayed to the player, one, and then two, that there's no way to negate or mitigate the system and get around the system. And it may also go a step further. I mean, really, Darren, one of the things we've talked about is pinpoint an issue. Some might say yes, right? But then if you watch at the different skill levels, sometimes people are even newer players struggle already just with pinpoint. So I don't think introducing like an RNG blooming reticle, I do think you could do it, but I don't think you're going to get the same result. So then it gets into Brownie's giving me a little shit. Yeah, you are. I knew it. Yeah, you are. Then you get into the talk of alpha. Does this play a role? Does the new heat skill play a role into the alpha amount or potential that you can alpha over and over again? So those are a lot of good questions. I just don't know what the answers are exactly. So
Yeah, I
hopefully.
mean, obviously, as soon as there's any info on it, we'll get into it. I would say a good start, if somebody wouldn't mind linking it, check out Homeless Bill's, write up on it or whatever, and that might just be an idea, a starting point for what direction it might be going in. But yeah, as info is made, we will share it or have somebody on the podcast to do so.
So and by the way, so as far as his the whole sort of system he proposed adds a drain value and link the yeah, just go read. There's a whole literally list of things he's posted out. So it'll be interesting. Is there anything? Is it close to resembling what he originally proposed? Is it something else? But
Lots of, yeah, it'd be very interesting. Also, just real quick to skip back regarding zero sum. So what Phil was saying is that was going to be our discussion today, but we decided that we wanted to get Paul on. So that does not mean that it's wiped from the board and it's no longer going to be a topic. It's probably not going to happen next week because I'll be in North Carolina, but maybe the week afterwards. If not, we'll just, maybe we'll just sit down with Paul ourselves and, just ask him about matchmaking, zero sum, and all that stuff, and do a little half-hour discussion with Paul, and then we'll put that up or something like that. Anyway, we're not ignoring it. We will get back to it. What's another question out there?
so the next one we have is Lothmir says, "What are some of your thoughts as insiders on a role warfare model?" Ooh.
We've discussed this quite a few times over the years.
So I mean, first off, let's go take a
It's not
step.
easy.
Yeah, let's go take a step outside MWO. What do you define as a role in another PvP game? Like
I think the easiest way is to go to something like the most obvious type of
World
game
of
with a
Tanks.
role.
World of Tanks.
Well, no, I was
No?
going to say actually the most obvious form of a role would be like World of Warcraft, where you have a healer, where you have a tank, where you have damage dealers, DPS or whatever. That's like the most defined role type of situation and the one that most people are used to. Now, translate that to World of Tanks and MWO. Does World of Tanks have any roles? Okay, I don't know. I mean, you have light, medium, and heavy tanks. You have tank destroyers. You have artillery. Are those roles?
Or are they tank attributes, right?
Yeah. Are they just different tanks with different weapons that shoot a different way or whatever, or have different strengths and weaknesses? What is a role in a free-to-play type game, like an armored combat type. World of Tanks, World of Warships, War Thunder, Armored Combat, etc. Are there roles that stick out in any of these games?
Well, I guess maybe I'll throw this back at you. We hear the term scout, right? We hear the term brawler. We hear the term, sort of specialist skirmer or skirmish and all that in MWO as far as like the context of people talk. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't think those are roles at all. And this is why. Uh, those are actions. When I look at roles right now are currently tied into game modes, and we have two distinct roles in this game, which is kill the other enemy team and one sec.
Hopefully, he's putting a muzzle on that beast. You know, Phil and I have had
I knew that was gonna happen.
dog issues on his side since
I knew that
the
was gonna
first
happen.
days.
Well, my wife, she went to church, then she went to gym, and anyways. So
Remember the very early podcast we
yeah,
had dog issues.
back in the day, yeah,
Back in the day.
garage when and
So
it's
are you
funny, I'm
saying-
above the garage again. Well, hold on. So
you're
we have
saying an
two
Atlas
roles.
can be a scout.
We have two roles. That is, you kill the enemy mechs, and you cap. And really, that's it. Now, someone could say those are objectives, but objectives tie into the roles of the mechs.
All right, so Phil,
Yes.
are you saying nobody ever scouts? That you cannot scout in
No,
MWO?
what I'm saying is every mech does scouting the same, and actually some are
Does
slightly
a
just
Raven
better.
scout the same as an Atlas?
A Raven
I'm
3L.
playing devil's advocate.
No, a Raven 3L, but it's not a built-in role. I mean, it's just one of those things. It just does better because all mechs have 800 meter sensor range. All mechs have target acquisition delay of
So
0.
are we being sticklers for the word role? I mean,
Yes.
if a role
Yes.
can be applied,
I think the term role warfare it gets misconstrued because we have all these base systems that treat all the mechs the same, and what is role warfare? And I think that in itself, I feel really needs dove into as far as, we have mech combat in the game as one of the pillars. I think there's some tweaks and adjustments, but I think everyone will agree mech combat is awesome. Okay, cool. Well, the other three pillars, community warfare is sort of flushing itself out, cool. But then we have role warfare. What is role warfare? We've never had a clear defined pillar. Like what is? We get the mech combat, but what is role warfare? We've never had that really defined at all.
well,
So
could it have been a theory or an idea in the beginning that
Yeah.
got lost in reality? But
Yeah.
still, I mean, like, here's my question. Why are we discussing role warfare? Are we wanting to figure out and apply roles to mechs, or are we being sticklers for the terms? Like, I mean, obviously, we know some mechs can be better at scouting, and some can be better at skirmishing, and some can be better at whatever. Can we just say, well, that's that, and move on? What is the role? What is the whole
I
issue
guess
with
what I'm
role
saying,
warfare?
I guess where it comes down to is, remember how we were just saying about tanks? Those are just attributes of the tanks. That some tanks do better than others, right? And
Good night, Zoph.
this is the same thing when it comes to mechs, is that it's not that particular mech has certain attributes outside of just firepower, generally speaking. Firepower, maneuverability, and speed, and maneuverability being jump jets as well. So those are just inherent attributes that all mechs have. There's nothing ooh ah, there's nothing assigned to them that makes them different. It's not like the Locust 1B has a built-in cap boost to it, right? You have to assign a module, but then every mech can take that module. So it ergo does nothing special compared to a 35 ton. So I feel like the term role warfare either needs to be scrapped completely, or we actually need roles in the game outside
What was
of
the
just
original question again? Just our thoughts on role
yeah.
warfare?
What are our thoughts, insiders, to role warfare model? I mean,
So I think our thoughts are that role warfare hasn't really existed like people thought it would since the game has come out. Still doesn't exist like we thought it would today. So my question would be, moving on, and we can move on to a different question, but would be, do we care? Do we want
yes,
role warfare?
I
Do we
do.
need to invent it?
I think you need to step outside the box, look at the entire thing and say, okay, we have mech combat. It's sort of like information warfare. People are like, oh, information warfare, blah, blah, blah. It never amounts to anything. It is actually important. It's just not more important than shooting the shit out of the enemy mechs. So don't make it as a primary pillar. It's just a supplemental thing. And same thing with roles or whatever. But I just feel like roles, right? Look at the sort of history of mechs and min max, right? Like you've got the 55-ton Stormcrow before quirks. You had the 55-ton Stormcrow was the best medium in the game, and it still is probably one of top tier out there. But then you have Timberwolf, and you start noticing 35. Well, why do you never see 20s? It's because there's no role for it. If all the role is to kill the enemy mechs, 35 tonners are better than any 20 tonners, 25 tonners, information war, all that. So I feel like that is a big bag of questions that
Which we're
just
not going to jump
no,
into
no,
all of
but
them right
I think it's a valid question, and I think
Yep.
it should be hashed out. And I do think
Well,
that's a
there's
missing part of the puzzle. I feel like
you
that's
brought up info warfare or info war, and people are asking about that. And there's kind of the idea that PGI has abandoned it. What I will say, and Phil can reiterate or whatever, is that nothing's been abandoned. There's just PGI has a certain number of people, employees that can do a certain number of things in a certain amount of time, and things get prioritized. There's a lot of stuff though that happens behind the scenes that nobody has any clue about. That's happening all the time, and
well,
so nothing's been abandoned.
look at information warfare. The last time we saw really any change to it was PTS 3. Don't mind the laser lock on mechanic. It was horrible, and they said, "Hey, don't worry, we're not doing it." It was a good attempt, even though they caught shit for it. Even though the community was like, "Oh, you should try stuff on PTS." Ah, but I can tell you the main reason none of that made it in. It was because there wasn't enough time on target to get testing in, and then Steam hit. So it just was like, "Hey, we don't feel comfortable pushing this stuff in, and so we're not." And instead of rushing it in, so
Nope, nothing has been abandoned. Most ideas are at least still, out there and
no.
discussed on a regular basis. But it's just a matter of we can't cram everything in all at once. And some things are still being discussed or looked at or investigated or whatever. But no, absolutely not abandoned.
There were things
Um,
that I liked about information warfare, but I think you really have to look at it objectively as possible. Some of those things, like the idea of radar, that like just think about this. I won't go into too depth, but think about this. Sensor range. Um, if a Hunchback 4P is supposed to carry medium lasers and its effective range is never going to be more than, let's just say, 500, meters. Well, then do you remove its sensor range down to 500 meters? But then that basically means is anything outside of that 500, it's not able to lock onto, which means it can't pass on information to its friendlies. So it literally could be, you know, that does that help newer players? Does that help sort of the role, the information warfare aspect of it? And so there are things that I think have to be carefully considered, even with like sensor range, even though it seems simple, like, oh yeah, that's not a problem. It's, how does the game play and what is the result to the player?
Malgus Kerensky asks, "Do you feel that the chat social system in game will get a high priority after the last town hall?"
It
Well,
better,
first of all,
damn it.
yeah,
No.
I mean, yes, it will. I mean, it's already a priority, or it's at least on the top of the list somewhere. Where it gets worked into that, it's first of all, there's we just launched the tournament website today. A lot of work was going into that over the last few weeks, and will be going into it over the next few weeks. We got the patch coming up, which is going to have Community Warfare Phase 3, huge endeavor, lots of work going into that. And so it's not a matter of that anybody saying, screw the chat system. But if you listen to the town hall, I mean, Phil and I bring up the chat system often. Sometimes it's on our own accord. Sometimes it's because we're passing it on from you guys. But that's not something we're going to let drop. It drives Phil and I crazy just as much as it drives you guys crazy. We play the game. All those things, we do make our voices heard.
Let's just put it this way. There's
They
been
drive Russ crazy
there's been
often.
multiple times where Russ has literally told me, "Phil, shut up." Like I get it.
Yeah.
Like he's like, but
Sub hype real quick. Psycho Smurf 96 and Malgus Kerensky. Psycho Smurf for 7 months. Malgus for 4 months. You guys are freaking
dude,
awesome.
we had 20 months earlier. Zoef,
That's awesome.
Opie, and Parjay,
Thanks for your
as
support,
well as
guys.
Savardius 18 as well. Thank you guys so much. And do I think? I mean, here's the reality. CW3 has eaten up so many like people. They've had no people that in like even when we were up there in December. That's we got some sneak peeks at stuff, and they got some really cool stuff. I got to see a sneak peek of. Actually, I'm not allowed to talk about, but it's one of those things. There are some very cool things. It's just it's funny. I saw a post today by TK Sachs on Reddit, and TK, I know TK. He lives about 15 minutes away. Um, and he was saying, "I'm so tired of the excuse that PGI is a small studio." I I I think that's a BS answer. Um, when you have 50 people in a company, how many are engineers? Have you ever written lines of code? And I think it's one of those things where
Well, you,
CW3,
you you just called out TK.
I did. I think it's one of those where um, I think so many things
I
have
think
had to
that's
go into CW to
understandable.
make it to where they can say, you know what, hey, it's in a good spot. We're gonna let it go. Yes, we're gonna and he even said that, right? He said for the next probably month or two, the next few patches, we're probably gonna have to fix things here or there. But we just want it in a good enough spot where we can fucking concentrate on everything else. The polish, which he did say, what do you want first, community warfare or polish? And then the community said CW, and I feel like CW was so ambitious and still is, but they've brought it back down, right? One planet, consolidation of a lot of things, and I'm hoping that it's as awesome sauce as we all want it to be. And yeah,
I think I understand TK's what he's saying. It's easy to get tired of hearing that this or this isn't happening quick enough because the studio is small. But then my answer is too bad. That's just reality of life. It's a small studio, it is,
but why don't you
and
hire
it
more
can only
people?
do so.
Why don't you hire more
And the
resources?
answer, the thing is, like, everybody's got the answer, right? So how many people out there are running a game developer company that has a game that's been out for 4 years? How many? I'm not saying you guys in chat, but of all the people that complain and say that they know how to do it better, how many of them are actually doing it? And the thing is, we know what's going on. We know that Russ is trying to hire as many people as he can, and that some people don't make it. They get hired and then they're let go because they aren't up to snuff or whatever. And he can't just get whatever. Life is life. Business is business.
Well,
Things happen the way they
dude,
do.
case in point, something we've been pushing
Sub
for
hype.
has. Hold on, who just
Okay,
Cardinal
case in point.
Bakuz. Thank you for subbing,
Cardinal.
man. Much
Thank you for the
appreciated. Thank you for
support.
your support and your dedication. Thank you again, bro. I'll raise my mug to you. Well, one thing to consider is Lauren and now Jaunty have been doing streams, and I think it's so important for them to do these things. Now, yes, we've been pushing, and it's finally happened, and we're so happy. That sort of, let's do this, and it's the fruit of our labors and stuff. But it's the fact of you can see how much work just goes into freaking texture in a mech, let alone writing all this code. Like, I think a lot of people just have this misconception because they're ignorant, and it's not ignorant because they're stupid. It's just ignorant because you don't work in the
You don't know
games
what you don't
industry.
know.
Maybe you build houses. Maybe whatever you're a teacher. You don't whatever you do for a living. You're not and so it's one of those where I'm glad they're doing them.
Did you just out TK's career?
No, no, he's no
He
teacher.
doesn't build houses.
No, he doesn't.
No, I know.
So
Yeah, and there's a lot of, and I'm not dogging armchair developers and stuff like that. I mean, I've played a bunch of games and I've sat there complaining to my buddies and saying, why don't they just fix this one freaking thing? It's easy. But what do I really know? What I know is what I've learned from the last 4 years of working with PGI. Is that you don't know what you don't know. There's so many things that factor into every single decision, especially when running a business of this size. And I don't care what your previous experience is, unless you've done this, then you don't know what is involved in this.
another sub hype, dude. We're
Jeez.
on a train. MechWarrior24.
MechWarrior24,
Thank you
thank
for your
you
sub.
for your
Welcome to
support, buddy.
NGNG TV, man. I think I need a beer. Like I feel like, dude. I feel like I need a beer fridge here. I feel like no. So yeah, I to move on. I
Yes.
just feel like I'm glad
Are we
it's
being defensive? I don't know.
no.
I think we're just
And
being
even
realistic.
even if we are, so what? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not gonna look. We've won some of these things. How long have I literally been on the whole fucking chat bandwagon, and it still hasn't happened. So it's one of those where there's things that I want to happen really quick, but they don't. And it's at the end of the day, it's called patience. And if you don't have it, you're just gonna get more frustrated.
Yeah,
And if you do have it, grab a beer, grab a coffee, or take a walk with the dog. Something.
absolutely.
All right, so next question. In Toxic, funny you ask, when will the April roadmap be posted? Russ just said April roadmap will
Tomorrow,
be
right?
released tomorrow. Sorry for the
Yep.
delay, but wanted to finalize aspects. So boom, there you go, Mech Bro. Thank you for the question. Calvier says, what exactly is zero sum? Basically, in the context of what people were talking about last town hall, which is sort of it's for like a ranked gameplay. Whereas if you lose, you go down in rank. If you win, you go up in rank to a certain extent. So there's always this adjustment. So that
No matter what, somebody always goes up or down in rank. But we do need, again, I think we need a Paul podcast or whatever to go more in depth on this. Um,
someone
just looking for more.
someone wants a pirate Phil stream. I don't. We need a
Yeah.
pirate Darren stream. I think that would be better.
The closest we got to that was that town hall we were drinking, and I just get angry. I'm not the same kind of drunk as Phil is.
You were you were pretty happy out at a Steam party, man. You should have seen the smile. Um, all right, so next question we have is Panzer Tree also follow up of last time is the engine upgrade. I think he was referring to the what Russ was talking about, the engine upgrade. Now, I didn't realize like it was that big of a fucking deal. Like I just
No,
assumed it was like an update because like, software comes out and there's updates. I just assumed that's what it was and they're crying whatever they're at. He said 3.4. They would be able
yeah.
to upgrade to like 3.7, 3.8 and then use some, start pushing some of these features. I didn't realize like it was like we can't freaking do that at all. And even though for those that don't know, CryEngine, um at least this is what I was told may or may not have got basically bailed out of a lot of things from Amazon buying, basically licensing their engine and then created Lumberjack, their own game engine, which is now free. And then next thing you know, CryEngine basically announces, hey, you pay what you want. It's also free too. So it's one of those where you can get all the updates, latest and greatest from CryEngine. Um, but
Holy cow! Sub hype. Loki77 subscribed for 19 months. Thank you, Loki, for your support.
thank you, Mech Bro. Um, everyone's coming here. But yeah, so the reason I think a lot of people were wondering is like, can you not now that it's like free? What does that mean for you guys? Are you still under like whatever contract you have with them? Can you get that 3.8 whatever for whatever the latest is? I didn't realize like that it was that because basically the gist of I got was it was basically like moving to Unreal. Like they would have to pretty much dedicate X personnel to do
Which
it.
is also a possibility. I mean, like, there's, yeah, I mean, the whole engine thing is a huge endeavor, but also pretty exciting possibilities. Welcome everybody that's just joining us, Rich and all you others. Looks like we're getting a pretty decent turnout. It's nice to be doing these regularly again. I love this.
All right.
Grab us another question.
Don't
Oh,
forget, guys, it is community question night and topics. You guys post and we talk about them as much as we can.
our thoughts on the redesigned pilot tree. It totally needs it. That's my thought. What is your thought on it, Phil?
Uh, I think who asked that question? I'm just trying to.
Was that a loaded question? Did somebody know what they were?
Yeah, someone.
That was Latham. Yeah, that was Latham here.
Oh, yeah.
So you probably sat there having dinner talking to
No,
Latho about
no.
the pilot tree for hours.
No. Yeah, I totally implanted that long time ago.
Mhm. Did he pay you $20 to say that,
I
Latham?
think it's an actually here's where I'm sort of more excited for Community Warfare Phase 3 is because of the polish and what that means for the core systems that haven't been touched. I mean, you have a skill tree. It's not even a skill tree. It's a upgrade path. It's like World of Tanks Armored Warfare. It's where linear upgrades. The only difference with this is you can upgrade whichever basic, but then you have to do 3 max and then you get the elites and master blah blah blah. But just call it don't even call it skill tree. Like if you're going to keep that sort of system, just call it upgrade path, but for God's sake, the pinpoint needs to go. Like it is it's one of those little things where, yes, we can make the excuse, other priorities, whatever, but you literally have a skill that it has no effect in the game. Like, it is so dinosaur, it needs to go. Now, an intriguing idea could be, could they tie in, could they actually do an upgrade path? Could they tie in quirks and role warfare, information warfare, and attributes to where you can pick how many module slots based on this or that, or how many weapon slots you this or that? I mean, there's a lot of routes they could go, but at the end of the day, I also have to rein myself in and say, cool imagination, Phil. Does it fit into the free to play sort of title and marketing strategy? But also, what is Paul's thoughts? Because I know he's been wanting to tackle that forever. So I think it could go in many different directions, but yes, it has needed to. Yes.
Yeah, needs work, needs love. We've been talking about that for a long time, so we'd love to see something more on point, what it was intended to be.
All right. So let's see. What are your thoughts on elementals and lambs in game? That was from TB Topcat. What are our
I would love to
thoughts?
see elementals as PvE. I don't want to see player played elementals. Not in MWO anyway.
I think yes. All the
I'd like to
yes.
shoot them
Yeah.
with flamers and machine guns.
So if you've never played Titanfall, I'm gonna highly recommend. Maybe you don't have the game. Go watch a video of Titanfall. And the reason I bring this up is it was fucking amazing for the immersion factor. Me and Darren got into it, and it was one of those where you've got grunts on the ground, right? And you can imagine tanks, other, elementals and stuff. The AI talking to you, and it was basic stuff, and it was immersion factor, and on a like you could literally like 1v10 the AI. It wasn't really a biggie, and that wasn't the point. They could kill you if you just stood still, but it was the immersion factor of when you were ejecting or when you came around a corner and one of your guys was in trouble. You'd be like, sir, help me, blah blah. If they could pull that type, and by the way, that was with Source engine too, so it's definitely possible. If they could capture that sort of immersion with elementals and infantry and tanks and VTOLs and aerospace. I mean, hell, even the airstrikes right now, even if it was like, you know, hey, blue leader coming in for strikes, make sure the area is clean, and just have to, boom, 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 dude, like little things like that. You're just like, yes. And so AI elements, I'm all for. I'm all like,
If it's done correctly, yes.
yes. So there's that.
I agree. As far as lambs, honestly, I mean, this goes back to my early days playing the tabletop. Even though I was a fan of Robotech, where they licensed the land air mechs, I was never really a fan of the land air mechs in BattleTech. It was never my thing. So I like the mechs that the land air mechs turn into. But yeah, I'm just more about the mechs for me. It's they're cool in Robotech, but I just don't feel like they have a place in BattleTech myself. So that's just my personal
I
opinion.
disagree.
Hmm.
I think they have a place in BattleTech. I don't think they have a place necessarily in MechWarrior.
Yep.
But I could
Have
be
you ever
wrong.
used one in the tabletop?
No,
Yeah,
no.
I mean, I've never used them. I never cared to. I mean, they don't bother me. I don't care if they stay in the tabletop, but it's just not my thing, and I don't think they have necessarily a place
It was
in MWO.
even in the novels. It was one of those like obviously lost tech sort of things, but also they were the added maneuverability was the whole aspect of lamps, right? It's like you could literally go from point A to point B, right? I mean, it's to be able to quick repositioning of assets, blah blah. Really, I mean, that's what it was. Now, unfortunately, you sort of got the Robotech quick Gundam sort of looking action, as far as some of the mechs and the idea of this thing like transforming, But I think lambs in general and mechware, meh, I don't see it, but you never know. I,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that me
Next
personally.
question.
All right, we have Opie says, "What would you like to see in PvE?"
What would I not like to see? I mean, I'd love to shoot infantry. I'd love to see battle armor. I'd love to see tanks, hovercraft, helicopters. Um, anything that's going to work as far as the game engine and AI, as long as it's not, I'd even like to see mechs, you know. But again, it all comes down to that AI and how it works and how it responds and handles. But yeah, I mean, as much as possible, as long as it adds to the gameplay and it's fun and brings a little bit more use maybe for the flamers and machine guns, and it there's all kinds of
Clarification,
things.
by the way, LAMS in this reference is talking about land air mechs, not
Yes,
laser anti-missile system. Sorry.
right.
Like someone was actually asking. So,
Yeah, so I think it just all depends on implementation, but I think everything that I mentioned is at least a good possibility. Drop ships, of course. I mean, look back some of the other MechWarrior games where drop ships were, pain in the ass and very significant on the battlefield. So I don't know. It could be a lot of things. I love the idea of PvE, just like Phil said, for the immersion factor. A lot of the PvP games I play now have a PvE element, whether they're directly related. So like PvE, when you're having to PvP, can be pretty hairy and pretty intense. So yeah, I like the idea. Phil, what do you think about AI and PvE?
I think it opens the door to not only the PvP aspects, like we saw in Titanfall. I mean, even if you were to take River City or whatever, Polar Highland, whatever it is, I mean, if you have little dudes out there with, basically, little javelins and this or that, to where if you're not paying attention, you're going to take slight damage, or you could get highlighted maybe for an airstrike, or stuff like that. And maybe you're being painted by target painter sort of thing by grunts, let alone tanks. I just feel like it opens up possibilities endless. I mean, it opens up game modes to where you could you name it could be done. And so someone asked,
Well, and also it literally paves the path to the single player campaign, which Russ has talked about several times.
yeah,
So
I know
hmm,
I'm a heretic, and I know there's a lot of
you're a
people
hairy
out there.
tick. What?
I know I'm not as excited for single player.
All right, well
Um,
then you stop. Okay, that's fine. You're not into
hold on,
it.
hold on. Let me
I'm
let me
super
let
excited
me
about
let me
single player.
finish. I'm not super excited about a single player MechWarrior game. I would be
Okay.
super excited about a
About a Mech
co-op
Commander.
mode.
Oh,
No, a
co-op?
co-op mode. And even if it was co-op and it was sort of tied into, because think about this, AI also has the ability to influence CW, Solaris.
Well,
I
of
mean,
course.
you like,
But
and all those
we
things.
already know it's going to be implemented in MWO first. But I think there's plenty of people out there that, well, we already know there's
Yeah,
plenty of people out there that do want the single player
yeah.
campaign,
I
myself
I I
included,
I know. I
totally
told you I'd
want
be
it.
a heretic for it.
Now, as far as co-op, fuck yeah. I want single player campaign, I want co-op, I want PvE in MWO. I want it all, man. And it's just the path. It's creating AI and PvE and MWO, which then leads to a single player campaign, which they can lead to a co-op and all that. I'm good for all of it. There's people that don't want single player campaign. Awesome, they don't have to get it. But I am all aboard that, including even somebody said in there, who was it? Kellen Riker, PVE, the boats from MechWarrior 4 Mercs, the AI were terrible. Yes, they were, but they were still fun to shoot, and
Dude, your very
that's the
first
thing.
mission, MechWarrior 4, you're a Shadow Cat, and you go on to destroy like 10
Yeah, I
dropships
remember.
so easily. It was so bad. Like they're, uh,
I
I
want it all,
I don't want to relive it. Take me away from that. No,
including Solaris. I want
I
that
do
too.
think it adds a lot. The one thing though with this is, to be blunt, is I don't see this happening instantaneously. And then on top of that, I
What
mean,
AI?
no, single player.
Oh yeah, no,
It just, to
not
me,
even
it's
this
like
year.
some people, yeah, like
No, this is way down the road,
this is
guys. I
why
mean,
you don't even see big AAA companies really do single player. It's the shift in the because the amount of time. Hell, look at Battlefield, man. How much shit have they gotten for their single player campaign? Like, don't even focus on it. It's crap. Blah blah blah. And they basically drop it, and then they get so much shit for it because they're not doing it. So I think it's one
yeah.
of those where, um, I think
Well,
the
yeah.
reality of it is for an extended life shelf of MWO, I think it just sort of goes to say an AI and a single player and a co-op and all this is it's a no-brainer. It's just how long and how many resources,
Don't
because
hold your breath.
they would need to. I mean, and Russ even said they would have to hire more people. I mean,
Well, but he also
for
said
that.
they are working on it right now.
Yes,
Like AI is under development
and
right now.
someone asked, MechWord24 asks, is PGI working on Mech AI? And yes,
Yes.
they are, and I've seen it. So, anyways,
Yeah.
um,
No, they're getting it. Oh, Subhype. Subhype. Seraph 47, 20 months in a row. Thank you for the support, Seraph 47.
thank you, Mech Bro. Let's see. Sorry, I've got my chat, so I'm not seeing the live updates down below because I'm catching
Yep, yep.
questions. Um, Calvier says, Darren, why the shot glass for your coffee, Kappa? Um, I think that's an appropriate statement. Let's see. Casaru says, any idea how faction
All
voting
gone.
will work in CW Phase 3? If not, what do you think would be the best implementation? To be honest, I have no clue. Um, the whole, unfortunately, because we're not able to participate on a daily basis, I've pretty much checked out of CW, because we're now that's gonna be fixed soon. We're gonna be actually able to stream it and play it and blah blah blah. But in all honesty, I told you this, Darren. I haven't really been interested in CW, and even if I was able to participate right now, I don't think I would. There's no reason. There's no physical reason for, and that's one of the problems where you see people right now is like they're like there's no
Wait, are you
point to
talking
play.
about today or are you talking about phase 3?
No, right now, like
Yeah.
there's no point to
Well, I mean, there is.
capturing
If
it.
people are having fun playing it, then that's their point and that's all they need. But
the
what you're
the
saying
time
is you wouldn't
investment,
have
right?
fun.
Yeah, the time investment, and that's why you've seen a lot of units sort of check out of it. Is they're like, there's no
No, I
reason
agree.
for us going
I've
after
been,
Planet X.
we've been dealing with a lot of these YouTubers and Twitch streamers and so forth. And one of the things I'm telling them all is because, when they get excited about MWO, the first thing they start saying is, I'm going to form a unit and I'm going to, not all of them, but a lot of them, and get into community warfare. And I've been telling most of them, just chill out on community warfare, let phase 3 come out first, because that will add a lot more than what exists today. But yeah, I mean, I know that you've never been that interested in it anyway. I mean, from a gameplay standpoint, I know you have interest in seeing it develop, and you may get interested in it post, phase 3 or whatever. But it's something that it's always been near and dear to me, although I've had to check out as well. I mean, basically, multiple reasons. We can't play our main accounts on there, and because it hasn't been all that. It hasn't been what we've wanted. It hasn't lived up to the expectations. I'm totally looking forward to phase 3, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to participate with our main accounts. You and I both want to jump with different units and just get an experience. We'll be streaming some of
But
it.
I think there's other aspects of it. I think it's because the current form of CW right now, solo versus groups. I mean, I think even group versus group, that's still really not as much going to change, but at least now. There's certain aspects. If I'm dropping as a solo player and I'm going up against any type of groups, I mean, you might as well just, like, meh, meh. But anyways, some of that's going to be fixed, and the consolidation. So I think there's a lot, and we sort of talked about this last week on the podcast, which is I have my concerns just with CW in general, but some of these may actually be fixed with CW Phase 3. So, um, we'll see. Nick,
The biggest things with like clan wars in World of Tanks, the biggest things for us was number one, it working, like being able to get in there and play and match up against different people. Now they had a totally different system. Number two thing was just getting our gold. I mean, fighting for something other than bragging rights. We needed that. And three, it like I said, I guess three is going back to one. It just needs to work. It needs to work, and there needs to be a reason for it. I'm hoping that's what happens with phase 3.
well, and that sort of spins another question that I have, which is, so you have solo, you have group queue, you have CW3 where potentially you can win, MC and this and that, and where unit wise that could be a sort of a moneymaker for him, MC wise. you know, where does that leave? Like, is CW supposed to be the competitive environment? And that sort of springs to the next, like Solaris, and the whole conversation that I think really, again, what we'll have hopefully with Paul is the whole what is solo, what is group queue, what is CW, and where does Solaris tie in? And is a ranked queue, because really I think a lot of people just want to see their name up on the board and compete for that slot of, who are the top players, who's the
I
best stuff, and this and that. But can you really say you are the best CW team when you've got the possibility of 12s dropping against mixed groups? I don't think there's a whole lot to be said there. So, um,
I don't think community warfare is the comp scene. Um, I think it's a form of competitive combat more so than random battles and potentially group queue. But I don't think it is the comp scene. I think if anything, that's what Solaris could be because it'll be ranked and because it'll be more dependent on your individual skill or your team's skill or whatever. I think Solaris will be the comp version of MWO. But today, I think the only thing that's competitive or the comp scene in MWO is the player run leagues and tournaments. I don't think community warfare is. I think it's more competitive than solo and group, but I don't think it's the comp scene, and I don't think it ever should be.
gotcha. And I agree. All right. So another question we have is TB Top Cat asks, do you think AI tank and PvE should be as powerful as they are canonically?
No.
Yes. I say yes. And this
Well,
this
I'm,
this
I'm
is
I'm gonna
this is
say
why I'm
okay.
okay
Go.
with it because you don't have the RNG factors. You can literally run up to the rear of a tank or the sides and blow right through. Remember, they don't have internal like once you hit internals, they're fucked. So it's one of those where we do have pinpoint. I think you can make them dangerous because they're going to be vulnerable. Look at terrain, look at the speed and stuff like that. I think you can make the AI. Now,
What was the question exactly?
do you make tanks? They're pretty damn scary in tabletop.
No, I know. So I guess my only the reason I said no is because I don't think you should. I don't think it's there's just a quick answer. I think they need to be balanced. How whatever that
Well, I'm
means.
not saying like you pull a Trek out there and it's
Yeah.
it. Now,
Well,
granted,
whatever it ends up being, balanced. I mean, I'm fine with them being powerful, but then they also need to have their, like Phil was pointing out, their weaknesses or whatever.
keep in mind for those that don't know, tanks in actual BattleTech rule set, the build set, are able to alpha all of their weapons at once with no heat issues. So on a Shrek tank with 3 peeps, it's able to alpha, and it never has to worry about heat. They're a
I
little
just
bit
don't.
different.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think that the game needs to be designed by tabletop rules. I've
No,
always
no, no,
said
no,
that.
no. I know. What I'm
No, no,
saying.
I'm answering chat. I'm just saying
Okay.
that I've always said that we can look to lore, we can look to the tabletop as our inspiration, but the game needs to be balanced as a game, and that's all. As far as everything else, I mean, I'm fine with whatever the tanks end up being,
The
and if
mechs
they're
are the masters,
yeah,
and everything else is sort of second, tertiary, and that's
yep.
again. So let's see. Next question we have is Tessero. He asks, and this is something you've played. What about a single player a la Armored Warfare, something like the group 4 versus AI waves? You've played this with Strafe, have you not?
Unarmored warfare, no, but I know what he's talking about. I mean, you're talking about a PvE mode or
Yep,
co-op or whatever.
yep.
Yeah, I mean,
It's co-op.
sure.
Yep. Yes,
If it's
yes,
fun,
and
then I'm all
yes.
for it.
Yes, yes, and yes. And I think too is when you add co-op and stuff like that, you can add elements that you can't add to the PvP area, which is like you could have a refit truck base, all that fun shit. You could have ammo drops, like this. I mean, you could have airstrikes and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like it opens the
Yeah,
door
and
to a
I
lot of
love
things.
co-op games. I've played the shit out of co-op Mass Effect 3. I've been playing Division co-op with buddies. So there's aspects of co-op that I really appreciate and have a lot of fun with and would love to see that in MWO as long as again it's fun and it works.
All right, next question. Bada Baden asks, do you think the big rescale requirking in June going to change the game in a big way? First off, just for clarification, they're doing a rescale. As far as a requirking, they don't know, and that's something that Russ even basically said is we're not sure yet. But rescale is happening. Do I think it's going to affect the game in a big way? No. I think it's going to affect mechs and mech chassis usefulness as far as um, the it's like the adder comparison. Adder versus some of the IS lights. Not only is the adder subpar as far as heat efficiency because it's sub 250 engine. Now it's also bigger than all the IS lights, so it's one of those. It's already working, has things working against it. So I think it'll help some mechs in that regard. But is it going to be a game changer? No, I don't think. I think a potential heat scale change, that potential heat scale, whatever they're going to do with that, has more dramatic effect on gameplay. Now, as far as quirks and rescale, I do have an opinion about that. I do think with the rescale coming in and some mechs having quirks because of that, I that's where I think you have to be very careful. Like Russ said, you can't throw the Nova in there at that scale and it keeps its quirks. Yeah, people who love Novas are going to love it, but it's just going to add to the power creep. So quirks, rescale, and heat scale. I feel like it could be a good time to really buckle down on and have a concise system for quirks in general.
Yeah, I mean, I basically my feeling is that I agree. Heat scale is a game changer, whereas I think the rescaling of mechs will be a game changer for individual mechs, and maybe, or at least if not a game changer, a big deal for certain mechs. Some you won't notice much or whatever, but I'm still super excited about it and still surprised that it happened. All the mechs.
Well, and can't go into super detail, but I mean some of the mechs aren't as easy to scale. Case in point,
Right.
like the Awesome. The Awesome actually scale volumetric and stuff is actually sort of spot on. The problem with it is it's just dimensions. It's super wide, so it's got a huge front profile. Whereas if you took the Victor and especially the Zeus, it has a lot slimmer, narrow profiles front. So it's one of those where how do you fix that without increasing its volume? So you have to think depth of the mech and stuff like that. So it's one of those where some cases of the mechs they can't just do a complete just rescale, shrink the model altogether. Whereas like the Nova you could, and that's basically what happened. So
Malgus Kerensky asks, will there be improvements to the mech combat tutorial, and will a tutorial be created for the mech lab? Yes, yes, and yes. Dave is the one that came up with the in-game tutorial, and he's still working on it. There will be additions to it, improvements to it, fine-tuning of it. It will always be evolving, essentially, just like the game is. And yes, whether there's an actual in-game mech lab tutorial or a video, a very extensive video tutorial of the mech lab, or both, that is coming as well.
Lothmir asks, any thoughts on equipment being rewarded as salvage at the end of the match versus just pure C bills?
I love the salvage idea. I mean, it's always fun. Like even when you go back and you play these old games and you finish a match, and then you have those few seconds and you're waiting to see what your salvage is going to be.
Does it
I
fit
like the idea, but
into MechWarrior Online and does it fit into free
yeah.
to play? I do think there's a possibility. This is just me speaking on my ass here. I do think there's room for it, but not in probably the way you're thinking. I mean, it's sort of like at the end of the day, everything is just C bills, right? Mechs are just C bills, equipment upgrades are just C bills. I think the logistics and sort of salvage and rewards like that, like work, and I think you're going to see it in the BattleTech game. I think that's that type of game. It works in a tabletop and stuff like that. Because you can do stuff like, hey, dude, you just salvaged a top of line large laser, blah blah blah. You can have that Exo Star, large laser from a Thunderbolt or whatever. But at the end of the day, everything's just C bills. So because let's just say you get rewarded with things, but then you don't need those said things, then all you're going to do is you're going to turn around and sell it. And at the end of the day, if you sell stuff, at least right now, you only get 50% of what you paid for it. So really, I think it just comes down to C bills, at least.
C bills, C bills, C
Yeah.
bills.
Now, what they could do,
Terragato
they could
says,
do,
oh,
well, they could do where maybe there's special ammo and stuff that can be used in PvE but can't be used in PvP. I mean, I don't know if that's a thing or they'd even go that far, but there could be certain aspects that could go that route.
Terragato says it's a bit late for tutorials. Most of the players that were going to try this game already have and have left. Um, Understand where you're coming from, but actually that's absolutely incorrect. We have literally hundreds of people registering for this game still every single day. And I'm not talking 200 or 300. A lot of people are registering for this game every single day. New players coming from wherever a new YouTuber puts out a video. You guys have no idea how niche this game is and how unexposed it still is. And every time there's a new thing, when we launched on Steam, we get a huge flood of new people. When Community Warfare Phase 3 comes out, there will be new people coming back, or people that haven't played for years or whatever coming back. Solaris, etc. Every single thing that every pillar that we release from here on out, there's going to be people coming. There's still going to
Well,
be people discovering it
here,
for the first time.
I mean, that statement, first off,
We don't need to get into that.
no,
I'm just saying
it's
that
just
there's new people coming all the time.
it's like me saying, uh, what, like, it's not based on reality.
No, that's
It's
just
just
his
opinion. But I
and
mean,
he
your
doesn't know the
opinion.
numbers. But that's why I was
But
correcting
that's
it.
what I'm
Is that,
saying is like statements like that are total hyperbole because
but
it's
no, I know. But my point is, and it's important for people to know that there's still literally hundreds of new people coming in this game every single day. However many of them stick and don't, who knows? But tons of people coming, and the market out there that we can still reach of people that don't know about MWO is huge. It's massive.
dude. Look at how many people find MechWare Online just based, and not, we're not touting here, just because on YouTube they saw a video about MechWarrior and it was on NG. Like, we've had people contact us via messages like, I had no idea, I've been a huge BattleTech fan since the 80s and I had no idea, blah blah, because they're not, since MechWarrior 4 there was this huge 10-year gap. Like, people left, got, I mean, especially generation what, they got married, they had kids, midlife crisis, whatever it is.
Well, there's a
And
million examples of a million things that happen, but the important thing is, and the take home is that literally hundreds of new signups every single day.
all right, so
So we need to remember that as far as people in the community. I think a lot of times, like we've said before, Phil, we've been around this BattleTech
too
thing for
close to,
decades.
yeah, can't see the forest through the trees, you're
Yeah,
too close to the sun, sort of thing.
yeah.
And I think it's fair to say, from an experienced player, to say, oh, what are tutorials? You don't go watch a brand new player and then come, and if you still feel that statement is true, then, well, you can have your opinion. Let's see. Zozia says, do you think Solaris should be seasonal as in lore, also similar to MRBC? I think there's so many routes they could go with Solaris. They could, I mean, because really, you could have 1v1 all the way upwards. You could have leaderboards. You could have stables. Just like, I mean, it really does open up a whole lot of just everything. And so I think also, though, it has to be very competitive. Like, I've so what?
I love our chat. Anyway, go
I
ahead.
think it just it's going to be a tough area, and I think a lot of people say they want to participate in Solaris, which I do think, generally speaking. But you're going to be stepping in, and this is sort of how I look at Solaris. It's going to be min max and competitive, and if you just I already see it. I already see it happening. I have a feeling, there. But the nice thing is, I feel like it'll bring some pretty cool shit that
I think Solaris is going to be awesome. I'm fine if that's where all the comp people go and they're min-maxing the crap out of every. I just want to see
I want to
those
bet.
matches, man.
I want the ability to bet
Yes.
on matches. I want you the ability to lose C bills,
We
lose
want
MC. Like, I don't know.
We've had so many discussions behind the scenes about Solaris. I wanted to do years ago an NGNG version of Solaris, but that fell through. But we've wanted to do something like this for a long time, and I would love to see them do something like adding match betting on your mobile devices and so forth, so you could spectate matches, you could vote, you could bet your C bills on it, or MC, whatever. I don't know, probably C bills would be easier, MC would be start getting difficult, but like there's all kinds of stuff that could happen with Solaris. Do I want it to be seasonal? The original question. Sure, as long as you're not talking like going months without having Solaris, right? You're saying
Or
one
maybe
season
you just,
starts and ends,
yeah,
and then the next
maybe
season starts and ends.
every 3 months, maybe,
Yeah,
or quarterly or
I'd be fine
annually or
with
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
I want to have a Valhalla. I want to have like a Hall of Fame, and like this is the place. You think you're the best. That's where I want people to go. Community warfare is not that. Solaris can be that.
There's a statement. Earth Talker says, having hundreds of signups is nice to hear. The problem is retention. What can we do to keep them? And actually, I think that's probably like one of the. You've got
That's one
two
of the main
million.
things.
You got $2 million questions, which is, how do you find people that don't know about the game and would want to play? And then two, how do you keep people engaged? And speaking from me and Darren's philosophy It's called having a positive community, having people doing things, podcast, streams, uh, tournament, leagues, machinima, video streamers. Also, just sort of the general atmosphere of the community. Like, for instance, you can come to NJNG TV chat and you can ask questions, and you're not being berated. You're not. You can go and post and stuff like that. That is probably, to me, one of the biggest things. And I know for a fact we've had multiple people contact us and say, I would not be here if it wasn't for what you guys have been preaching and also following through, which is, you know, not being assholes, asshats, and stuff like that. And I feel like the community has a responsibility to sort of take that stance of saying, we want people to stay. How do we do that? Well, one, positive learning environment. You need to come in here, realize you're not going to be, the best at it, and then how can I learn? How can I move up and stuff like that? So I feel like that's how you retain people. And at the end of the day, it's a niche game. And it's a game. You're gonna have people come. You're gonna have people go. That's gaming in general. Like you are.
Well,
That's
yeah, no
that
doubt about it.
happens.
I mean, it's revolving door. I play all these games, so do a lot of my friends. World of Tanks, War Thunder, like I've said, World of Warships. You get bored of them, you stop playing them for a couple months, you come back, whatever, and that's what happens with a lot of these free-to-play games, especially all the armored vehicle combat type ones that are similar. Basically, you're dropping in a match against X amount of people, and it's just kill each other, etc. But I do want to point out, as far as retention, there's PGI's responsibility or goals for retention, which they obviously we have. Tutorials are a huge one. We need to keep developing the in-game tutorials. We need to get more whatever, everything to help the new player experience. This game does not have a new player experience. It's a very steep learning curve. Totally get that. So PGI has a lot of responsibility for making it a better new player experience. Are we there yet? No. Is it stuff that we're talking about every day and working on? Yes. And so it will get there. So there's Piranha's responsibility as new player experience and retention, and then there's the communities. And it's not really their responsibility. They can do it or they don't have to do it. Thankfully, though, our community is amazing at that. I get time and time again, I get streamers coming from different communities, whether it be World of Tanks or these other ones, and just talking about the difference between our community and other communities. Our community, I do believe, is extremely helpful and very well. Just for example, a new streamer started streaming, or not new, but a partnered streamer started streaming today, and I was getting ready for this podcast, taking a shower, etc., and I couldn't get in there, but there were other people like Bandit B17 or whatever that just get in there and completely are helping him in every.
He's played MWO before too.
Yeah,
Case
he's
in
coming
point,
back.
he's coming back, and also I think it's sort of the nature of the beast of gaming. You come and you go, but also the fact of your buddies, like
Yep.
how
Connecting people, hooking people up, because this type of game, if yes, it can be played solo, and there's people out there that love it that way, and just dropping solo queue or whatever, or community warfare even solo, and that's fine. But this game is definitely a team game, and teams are OP and more fun, or
yep.
can be, at least if you're that kind of player and you like that kind of interaction. So hooking people up, getting them together, getting them either on TeamSpeak or whatever voice, getting them within communities of like-minded people, into units and so forth. That's all kinds of stuff that we can do to retain.
Let me dive into, because you mentioned steep learning curve, and I know Goblin just commented in chat. Here's the thing now.
Yeah, Eve, definitely.
It's a
yes,
mech.
I did play Eve for 5 years.
It's a mech game. Right off the bat, that already makes it to where some people are going to turn away. Two, you have to worry about legs and torso direction. And this is why I think it's so important for sometimes experienced or even vet players to take a step back. And if you've never watched a new player, and the reason why is if you've never played any like tank games, which a lot of people have, and you coming into MWO, the whole distinction of orientation and self-awareness is huge, because almost no other first-person shooter there's only a handful that you have to do that. And so it's one of those where keeping people engaged in MWO and keeping them here, some of that comes down to the individuals themselves. There is only so much PGI can do. You can lead a horse to water, as they say. You can have the best tutorial system in the world. But if it's not for them, it's not for them. And, I think that's just gaming in general. I think some people get burnt out. I think they try it, and especially free to play. Here's the awesome thing about it. Um, Case in point, War Thunder tanks. Me and you haven't played that for how many months? It's free to play though. Guess what? I'm able to re-download it. Oh, they've updated and fixed a lot of shit that we had problems with. Boom, I'm playing it, having fun again, and I drop a few matches, and boom, that's it. This is a free to play title, and it's one of those where the casual sort of play allows people to be there and hey, you're not happy with the game. And we've even said this and we've caught shit for it, like which is like, hey, if you're really frustrated, if you're really having issue, take it just maybe don't play for a week or two. I mean, really, I mean it's the best thing
Step
I can
outside for a
say.
little bit.
As a gamer, sometimes you have to just say, I I'm I just need to step away and vent. And we've talked, not to get off on a tangent here, but we're about to go down a little bit of a tangent. But the whole, me and you have talked about it, Darren, is gamers and how many articles we read about depression, and like that's one reason we've talked about like why it's so important to play with friends and buddies and to check up on them and hey, what are you doing, and drop, because it's so easy to sort of get caught up in, sometimes the funk of life or whatever it is. And I do think a lot of people use gaming as sort of an outlet. And, so to me, and that's sort of the whole thing of being a community, meeting people, and sometimes meeting people online. And the next thing you find out they live down the road and you can hang out, have beer, and you get to know them in real life. So, yeah,
I think to end it all, as far not the podcast necessarily, but this question,
it's all over. It's done.
as far as the new players and tutorials, yes, PGI has an immense responsibility to that, and hopefully every month that goes by, or every quarter, and each launch of each new whatever of PGI phase 3 coming up, and whatever, and new players coming in, we keep building that experience and making it better and better. We can't make everything perfect tomorrow. We can only do things over time, and everything takes effort and people working on it. So if we're working on community phase 3, community warfare phase 3, then there's less people to do other stuff, etc. I'm definitely not letting the responsibility of PGI in the new player experience and learning curve go by the wayside. I'm directly involved in that. I believe it's insanely important. It's hugely important, and we're going to continue working on it. But you know, we're people. We get freaking tired at the end of
So,
a 12-hour workday or whatever, and we can only do so much. And so, partially, a huge part of it is our responsibility, and a huge part of it can be taken up by the community, which I think this community has been doing, does, and will continue to do, because it is that awesome of a community.
all right. Tesaro asks, what about a battle log to see the experience and C bills you have earned in the past few matches
I
where
would
you've
love
been
that.
able to see results? I'm going to take it a step further, Tesaro. I think
Don't take it to the replay.
I think we need a API
Oh yeah, yeah.
battle log. And for those that are not familiar, it's basically every single time you drop, when you come out, there's a simple breakdown. And basically, what happens is behind the scenes, the game's tracking all this information, anyways, because it already tracks when you hit, what you hit, blah, blah, blah. And Eve Online has this. And the cool thing is, every single time there's a ship destroyed, so you can imagine you just dropped in a match and it has a battle report ID or whatever, you would go and pull this up and it'd be a battle report, and it would show all the players, what mechs they were in, who killed who, how much damage from said who, and what parts were shot, blah, blah. You click on the person, you can see what locate. I mean, it's already tracked there. And it's one of those where that's where I see some really useful information and player driven community tools coming out. And I've wanted an API system forever, just because leaderboards, community leagues could have it. And it also, think about this, if you have a MRBC, RHOD, or any of them, if you have rules and restrictions for how mechs are to be made, or maybe there's a league that really can never enforce that type of thing because there's no way to verify that they had it on their mech, you could literally have leagues where there's restrictions and stuff, and there's proof every single time there's a battle log, and so you can double check people and stuff like that. There's so many things to battle logs.
I
and
would love a
API.
battle log, a la World of Tanks, something similar to they do, and I would love an API system similar to Eve Online. I think it's brilliant. Phil and I have been talking about that for 3, 4 years.
I've been wanting it for so
Yeah.
long.
I mean, and we're going to keep pushing. It's just, again, it's the same as everything. TK is not going to like it, but it's just a matter of resources and getting people assigned to it. So, yeah, that's something that Phil and I will continually push for. We always have and we always will. So, you know, whenever it happens, we'll be super happy.
Like to quick give a shout out to Gimpy. Thank you for the host. Much
Gimpy,
appreciated, man. Hopefully you had a great
thanks, buddy.
stream. Um, so yeah, combat and it. By the way, API like all this, it's already being tracked for the most part. It's just yeah. So all right. Next question we have is from Goblin, and he asks, "Are you okay with how jump jets work? Or basically do you have any thoughts and ideas on it?"
I know you do, so why don't you go ahead and start?
I just think it's a tough fucking thing to measure, like because you've got some mechs that are hard fixed with them, so that you can't take them off. So is it worthwhile clan mechs to have said jump jets on there? And then you have on the other side is IS and Custom and some of the clan mechs now, the two Cs, where if you get the benefit out of two, then what's the point of ever taking three, four, five? But then if you boost the performance of each one, I think it's just the nature of the beast is you have to change the mechanic of how jump jets work, which is like you can't tap, you can't halfway expand. Like if it's one of those where if I'm running forward and I hit jump jets, you're vaulted and you're going, So I don't know, man. I think jump jets in general are it's and also to be fair, there's another thing sort of working against the system, which is the in-game gravity as well, and that's another topic that I know Trev has talked about, which is the in-game gravity being very very high, and it affects how the mechs, um, how much force is needed and stuff like that. So
So I'm not going to get into the science, but I'm just going to give a very basic breakdown of how I feel. Right now, I feel like at least jump jets aren't, and let me finish this, aren't broken. In that, there's not an issue like pop tarting or whatever that's directly a result of jump jets that people are complaining about. And I'm not even saying pop tarting is a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's no standout thing right now where people are saying jump jets are breaking this game, at least for the most part. Maybe there are people saying that. That being said, I understand that the mechanics of them and gravity and whatever, so maybe the argument can be made that they are broken, but I'm saying they're not breaking the game, at least from my perspective. But then the second thing is, I come more from lore, which is exactly what you're saying. Jump jets were never in the lore, or I mean, tabletop. You could, I don't know. I don't know the answer. In part of me would love to see. It's just metal pedal to the floor. You do your jump jets. You're going off in that direction, and you hope you land somewhere you want to be. And part of me just thinks leave them the way they are. Part of me thinks you have a much better idea for a mechanic on how to use the jump jets. Cool, let's see it on the test server or something like that and see if we like it. I am fine with them as they are right now. Do I heart them? Is it the best situation for jump jets for me? No, but I don't know anything better yet.
well, and the whole idea of our is the reason we don't see any changes to jump jets because the worry of Pop Tarts from PGI? I don't think so. I think it's just in general the whole what you get out of one jump jet, and we still sort of have that problem. You take two jump jets, that's all you need. Like and so we're sort of back to square one. So I think the entire system needs changed, and um, there's been a few ideas that I've seen proposed. There's been some references to some games in the past and other things that have jump mechanics and this and that. But I think the ultimate question is how do you make it worthwhile to player? If I can take five jump jets on an intersphere mech, why the hell would I? And if it's just for height, there's no gameplay advantage to that. And yeah, and that's the thing is what gameplay advantage is it for taking one and taking five? And I think that's where the real struggle is, and I sort of think that's where we are right now. There is no gameplay advantage, and on top of that, some mechs get sort of screwed over because of that. Executioner, Summoner, all the ones that have hard fixed jump jets. The Viper coming out, I think, has 8. Don't quote me on that. Um, so it's one of those where would you be better off with the mechs not having those jump jets? In the current state of the game, I think a lot of people would say, yeah, I would rather have the firepower potential. But that's where I feel like the jump jet system falls short. Is it should provide something gameplay wise, but it doesn't. So
All right. So how long have we been going? I've literally, I don't know if you guys have been able to tell, but I've literally had a migraine this entire podcast.
no, I
When I was
haven't
in the
been able.
shower, it started, and so
How would we
I'm
know that?
dying right now. Well, just if I'm grimacing or making faces that
I thought maybe you had gas or
indicate
something.
that I have pain.
You're holding it in. You shouldn't hold it
Um,
in, man.
no,
It's
dude, it's
bad
not
for you.
that. I'd do that for you, no problem. But no, I have a migraine right now. So, do we have a few more good questions? Because otherwise, I need to go take some medicine big time.
I think he needs poop, guys. I think that's what needs to happen.
No, I
Um,
don't need to. I have a headache. It hurts so bad.
um, all right. Let's see. I think there's more questions about jump jets, and like I said, I don't think they're in a good position, and I do think the entire system needs looked at. But yeah. Oh man. All right, guys. Just want to say, let's go ahead and wrap it up then. It's been a good podcast. I feel like we covered many questions and topics here. It's nice to do community topics and discussions, and of course, I feel like you guys like it as well. We will be having a podcast next Tuesday, not on Wednesday, and Darren's gonna be here, literally like right here or right here,
Right over there.
somewhere. He'll be somewhere here. So yeah, I just want to say thank you guys to coming out. Thank you to all of our resubs. Seraph, Loki, our new subs, Mechor24, Cardinal, Buka, as well as Malgus, Psycho Smurf, Harjar, Opie, Zoef, Savardius. Thank you guys for the resubs, and thank you guys for the new follows. And guys, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. We'll make sure to get this up on YouTube as soon as possible. And do you have the SoundCloud version of the last one up yet, Darren?
Of the last what?
Podcast?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I have that up and the town hall.
All right, he's gonna make sure it's up before he leaves to come here for this one. Anyways,
This
guys,
one? Oh yeah, for sure.
just want to make sure. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, website, all the things. Links are right there. Also, links are down below. Changed up some visual stuff. Simplified some of the support and follow and all that. Anyways, links and all that are down below. Make sure to click that follow button as well. That way you guys get email notifications. And yeah, just want to say thank you guys for showing up. 155 people here. Heck yes. And well, you'll see me tomorrow. And you won't see me Friday because I'll be going down to my family's house because I have my Spartan race this weekend. So I'm going to get muddy and wet because I've never been not wet. Someone was like, oh, are you going to be supposed to be like 31 degrees when I start? 31. Yeah, that'll be
It's
fun.
raining a lot when I'm out there.
Hey, it is
I
what it
like
is.
rain. It'll be cool. Hey, I think let's send people to the MRBC match.
Is that
Yeah.
what's going down right now? RJ?
RJ Base is hosting
My,
the MRBC. It's
my Twitch is messing up.
SJR versus SRS.
Yeah, we'll get the link in chat for you guys. Anyways, just want to say thank you again for everyone out there. Hopefully you guys have had a good time. Let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to all of our listeners, new and old, our Patreons, our Twitch subs, our supporters, our viewers on YouTube. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation. And of course, thank you guys in chat for being awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all. It's been a pleasure. Phil and I have been having a ton of fun doing the podcast again. I guess we needed a little break or whatever, need to get some inspiration. You guys are our muse, as tonight was, clearly evident. All the questions came from you. We appreciate it. I will see you. Phil and I will see you Tuesday next week. Phil will see you tomorrow. I'll be around, obviously, the rest of the week. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all for the subs tonight. Thank you for the follows. And let's be sure to jump on over to RJ Base's channel. Check out the MRBC match.
And of course, guys,
And
don't forget, if you want to support us here on NGNG TV, there's a few ways you can do it. You can check out Become a Sub. You can shop on Amazon through our affiliate link. You can leave a donation. You can go just hang out and chill. You can check out our Patreon page. All the things, all that information is down below and in the
that
chat.
was for Phil.
Anyways, guys, this was your local No Guts, No Galaxy MechWarrior podcast signing off for tonight. This is Phil.
This is Darren.
Until next time, Mech Warriors. And shout out to Core Knight, 18 months in a row.
Knight,
Resub
18
high.
months. Thank you, sir.
And we'll sign off with that one. Good night, Mech Bros.